Ever walked into a bustling cafe and felt that instant buzz, that amazing smell, the chatter? There's just something about a great coffee shop, right? It always makes you wonder what actually makes it tick. Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a deep dive into the cafe business in a really vibrant, specific market, Manila, in the Philippines, looking at things as of 2025. We've got this comprehensive SWOT analysis right here: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, the whole deal. It's packed with market trends, economic data, consumer insights. So our mission today is to really pull out the most important bits, the key takeaways, to give you a clear, informed view of what's happening there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to synthesize what's really driving things, the hurdles these businesses face, and critically, what success actually looks like on the ground. It's more than just coffee. It's about understanding this whole dynamic business ecosystem.
Okay, let's get into it. We found this pretty amazing stat right off the bat. Something like 80% of Filipinos drink an average of 2.5 cups of coffee every single day. I mean, what does that tell you immediately about the demand?
Well, that 80% figure, it's huge. It basically means a cafe in Manila isn't trying to create a market for coffee. The demand is already there, it's intense, it's built in. The real challenge then isn't convincing people to drink coffee, it's becoming the place they choose for one of those daily cups. And, that demand is really boosted by the wider economy, too. The Philippines economy is projected to grow around 6% in 2025. The World Bank connects this to lower inflation, more consumption. Basically, people have a bit more disposable income for things like, well, cafe visits. It's a really strong foundation.
Right, so you've got this solid economic growth and this ingrained coffee habit. That sounds like a great starting point. But what about tourism? You hear about the tourism boom there. How does that specifically play into the cafe scene?
That's a really key point. Tourism revenue hit record highs in 2024, apparently. And the forecast for 2025 suggests the industry could support something like 11.7 million jobs. For cafes, this means more than just, extra customers. It means different kinds of customers. Tourists often want unique, local stuff. So cafes become these great spots to sort of soak up Filipino culture, maybe try some local flavors,
Yeah.
which leads us nicely to another strength.
Local flavors. Yeah, our sources mentioned the Philippines grows its own unique coffee, right? Like La Berica or Barako. What's special about that, and how does it help cafes stand out?
Exactly, Barako. It's this really unique bean, very bold flavor, strong aroma. It's quite distinctive. And yeah, the Philippines is actually the 14th largest coffee producer globally. There's this whole Philippine coffee industry roadmap aiming to boost production, improve quality through training, mechanization, things like that. So for a cafe offering locally sourced Barako, well, that's a fantastic, unique selling point. It tells a story, offers authentic Filipino heritage in a cup.
And it seems like there's a real community feel and focus on quality in Manila's cafes. You see local, international competitions pushing standards up. Plus, Forbes highlighted how social media is massive for them, promoting smaller, maybe lesser-known spots and building buzz. Okay, so that all sounds incredibly positive, but every market has its challenges. Let's shift gears now and look at the weaknesses, navigate what we're calling the Manila maze. One thing that really jumped out, honestly, was the cost. Our source, Corner Coffee Store, mentioned it could cost up to, what, 375,000 US dollars just to open a coffee shop in Manila? That seems incredibly high. How does that shape the market?
Oh, it's staggering. That kind of figure, $375,000, it's not just a barrier. It fundamentally changes who can even compete. It means you need serious capital or, really creative funding. It limits the dream for a lot of independent, smaller operators. And it puts immense pressure on those who do get in to turn a profit quickly. And then even if you get past that hurdle, there's this kind of paradox with the supply chain.
A paradox. How so? If the Philippines produces coffee, why are there supply chain challenges? Does that mean local cafes end up relying on imported beans anyway?
That's exactly it. Despite growing coffee locally, historical data from the Philippine Statistics Authority showed a slight annual decline in coffee volume for a decade, up to 2018. This created a dependence on imported beans for many. And that, of course, makes businesses vulnerable to global price swings, shipping issues, all those disruptions.
Yeah.
It's a constant juggle.
Okay, so high entry costs, potential supply issues, and then there's the sheer competition, right? You've got the big chains like Starbucks, local chains like Bo's Coffee, plus tons of independents. We saw these lists online, like 50 best coffee shops in Manila. That screams crowded market, doesn't it? How does that intense competition affect things day to day?
It really does.
Yes.
And that competition drives up other costs too, especially rent. To compete, you often feel you need to be in a prime location, like Makati or Bonifacio Global City. and rents there are very high. So these operational costs can just eat into profitability, especially if you're a new or independent place trying to find your footing. Differentiation becomes absolutely essential.
Wow, yeah, that's a tough mix. High cost, tricky supply, intense competition.
Well,
But all right, let's look at the flip side now, the opportunities. Because despite those headwinds, the potential looks huge. The overall food service market there, including cafes, is projected to grow massively. Our sources say from around $18.4 billion in 2025 to over $36 billion by 2030. That's a CAGR, a compound annual growth rate, of 14.52%. Can you unpack that? What does a CAGR like that really signal?
yeah, a KGR of 14.52% is, well, it's explosive growth. It means the market isn't just growing steadily, it's actually accelerating year after year. It signifies really robust, sustained expansion. It makes this sector incredibly attractive. And that kind of rapid growth fuels innovation. Consumers are looking beyond the standard latte. Statista notes this growing demand for specialty coffee, unique brewing methods, think cold brew, AeroPress. You see places like Yardstick or Cooper's Coffee House doing really well with inventive drinks, like that brown butter latte you mentioned. It shows there's real appetite for creativity.
And bringing tourism back in, because it does seem like a massive opportunity. How can cafes specifically tap into that? What kind of experiences can they offer tourists beyond just coffee?
Oh, definitely. Cafes can really lean into cultural experiences, maybe offer traditional Filipino snacks, feature local artists, perhaps even have storytelling events linked to local heritage. This ties right back into local sourcing, too. Partnering with Filipino coffee farmers, supported by things like that coffee industry roadmap we talked about, boosts authenticity. It makes the cafe more appealing to tourists seeking genuine experiences, and it helps tackle that import reliance issue. It builds a more resilient supply chain, potentially.
And sustainability seems to be another big opportunity. So just to mention, consumers are increasingly looking for ethical and sustainable options. How can cafes leverage that?
It's a huge differentiator. By adopting fair trade practices, using eco-friendly packaging, maybe highlighting sustainable farming partners, cafes can build a really strong brand identity. It resonates with conscious consumers and builds loyalty beyond just the product. It becomes part of their values. And we also need to talk about younger customers, Gen Z, millennials. Gourmet Pro points out they're driving a lot of the demand for trendy, versatile coffee experiences. They often start drinking coffee earlier too. So cafes really need to think about, Instagrammable aesthetics, maybe digital ordering, definitely innovative menus to capture that key demographic.
Okay, lots of potential there for sure. But we do need to balance this with the risks, the steaming threats. We mentioned the intense competition already, those lists of dozens of specialty shops. How do cafes fight off saturation?
It really boils down to constant, genuine innovation. Not just gimmicks, but truly improving the offering, the service, the experience. Staying agile is key. Beyond competition, though, there are broader economic risks. Global uncertainties, as the IMF points out, could lead to an economic downturn. That might squeeze consumer spending on non-essentials, like frequent cafe visits, hitting everyone's bottom line.
And the supply chain again. Even if you source locally, things like coffee rust disease or climate change impacts, Coffee BI highlighted these. How big a threat are they?
They're significant. Coffee rust can wipe out huge portions of a harvest regionally, causing price spikes and scarcity. Climate change brings unpredictable weather, floods, droughts, all affecting yields globally. Cafes really need backup plans, maybe diverse supplier relationships to hedge against these risks, and then you have potentially changing tastes, maybe shifts towards other drinks, or health trends pushing people away from caffeine, although the social role of cafes, that third place idea, might help buffer that somewhat. It's not just about the coffee.
Right. And finally, a threat very specific to the Philippines. Natural disasters. The country is prone to typhoons. A World Bank report mentioned this. How does that impact a cafe business directly?
Typhoons are incredibly disruptive. They can damage buildings, knock out power for days, make roads impassable. This hits supply deliveries and stops customers from coming in. Businesses need contingency plans, secure inventory, maybe backup power if feasible, and definitely communication plans to let customers know when they're back up and running after an event. Resilience is key.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Let's try to distill this down into some key recommendations, some strategic tips for succeeding in Manila. First and foremost, differentiation through innovation. It keeps coming up. Like Cooper's Coffee House with that brown butter latte example, unique drinks, unique experiences. That's how you stand out.
And once you have something unique, you've got to shout about it, right? Leveraging social media, especially visually driven platforms like Instagram, seems crucial. Forbes backed this up. It's like your digital shop window. Absolutely. And then prioritize sustainability and local sourcing. Statistics showed consumers care about this. Partnering locally, being transparent about your practices, that builds trust and a strong brand story.
Makes sense. And definitely target those tourist hotspots. With tourism booming, as the DOT data shows, being in a high-traffic area frequented by visitors gives you access to a constantly refreshing customer base looking for unique local offerings.
And finally, underpinning all of this, manage your costs ruthlessly. Those high rents in prime spots like Makati are a killer. So maybe explore slightly less central locations, look into shared kitchen or retail spaces, anything to mitigate that cost pressure and protect your profitability. It's vital for long-term survival.
So there you have it. We've taken a deep dive into Manila's cafe scene, a market that's clearly dynamic, full of potential, but also facing some real challenges.
Yeah, and it seems success really hinges on being strategic, differentiating yourself, managing costs smartly, and leveraging those big trends like innovation, sustainability, and tourism.
So, thinking about everything we've discussed, the strong coffee culture, that incredible growth projection, the competition, what do you, our listener, think is the absolute most critical factor for a new cafe in Manila to truly succeed and build loyalty? Something beyond just having, a great cup of coffee. Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us on this fascinating deep dive today.